Good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan Willie. I'm a early career scientist volunteer with the ICCI. It is my pleasure to introduce our second session of the morning. We'll be doing a film screening. We have Voices from the Roof of the World, and then we'll be followed by a panel discussion. So it's my pleasure to introduce Nasraf Nasib from the AKAH Agency for Habitats. Please, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Nusrat Nasab, CEO of Agency for Habitat Pakistan. Today, this is going to be an interactive event showcasing voices from the roof of the world. It's an award-winning international documentary series on climate change in the high mountain Asia. And it's sponsored by the AKAH Agency for Habitat and the AKAH University. Rooted in science and with dynamic footage of the high mountain landscape, you are gonna see the breathtaking scene, and the series which gives voices to the mountain people, and it brings the issue of climate change that has directly impacted the people, and also increased disaster risk, water shortages, and threats to the livelihood and culture. So from the series, each series is a 30-minute film, and today, the one we are screening, it's called A Cry from the Mountains. And then afterwards, as my colleague said, we are gonna have a panel discussion. In this series, it is about to highlight the global warming and the people who are at the front line in northern Pakistan, and one of the glacier lake outburst flood which happened in May 2022. Then also it's going to talk about the Wahi community. So let's watch the movie first, and then we can come to the panelists.
From Asia's highest peaks to its valleys downstream, how people and wildlife are coping with climate change. Voices from the roof of the world.
It's 2:30 in the morning, and everyone here is wide awake. Record high temperatures have sparked a dramatic melting of Pakistan's Shishba Glacier. And the water is now threatening the Hasnabad Bridge.
ये जो हमारा पीस जो है ना वो खत्म हो गई है। दिन रात जो है ना इसके पीछे निकलना पड़ता है। बेकार से ऐसे ही है सबको। 3-4 हजार 5 हजार क्यूसिक होगा पानी तकरीबन लग रहा है। 3-4 हजार से ज़्यादा होगा। और अल्लाह करे कि जो है ना इसी तरह जो है ना खत्म हो जाए। बहुत ही ट्रैवल है। ये 8-10 साल लगेगा। जो ग्लेशियर का हालत है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है। अगर आप उधर तक गए हैं तो आपको इस चीज़ के बारे में मालूम होगा।
न सूरज का एतबार है न बारिश का एतबार। ये 2-3 साल में सारे फोकस वाले आते थे, सैलाब आ गया तो आप इस तरफ भागने हैं, इस तरफ भागने हैं। अब मख्ती किसी ने भी यह नहीं सोचा कि यह होगा, अचानक ये समा गया हमारा ऊपर।
ये आपको नजर आ रही है, सारे नाला ही नाला है। वहाँ पे भी जो है पहाड़, इधर भी उधर भी पहाड़ ही नजर आ रहे हैं आपको। शायद हमारे दादा ने गलती से यहाँ अपने घर बसाए हैं। ये कोई रहने की जगह नहीं है, ये तो पानी का बहाव के लिए जगह है।
Climate change is radically changing this landscape and imperiling an ancient way of life. Everyone is talking about it, but no one knows what the future will bring. The voices of local villagers, community leaders, mountain climbers, and shepherds are seldom heard away from these isolated valleys. And neither has the cry of alarm from a now stirring mountain of ice. It's time for the Kuch. When members of the Wakhi community herd hundreds of yaks and other animals up to 15,500 feet above sea level. In an annual migration to reach greener pastures. For 4 weeks, our film team accompanied them on an epic journey with their livestock to Shimshal Pass, sharing both the physical hardships and the warm intimacy of their camp. But as development penetrates even the most remote valleys, the arduous climb to Shimshal Pass may become a thing of the past.
चाकू से काटे थे।
یہ ایک فارسی سانگ ہے.
فرنٹ پہ ایک اور
جب ابھی ہم 7 بندے یہاں پہ ہیں, جب نیکسٹ میں جو بندے ہمارے چینج آ جائیں گے تو وہ ہمیں سب سے پہلے آواز دیں گے اسی گانے سے, کیونکہ شمشال والے ساری ایک ہی فیملی کے ہیں. اگر کسی کی موت ہوئی ہے شمشال میں تو وہ گانا نہیں گائیں گے.
پہلا جو ہمارا کوچ تھا اس میں بہت مزہ تھا. ہمارا اصل کلچر اسی کوچ میں تھا. ہم شمشال سے نکلتے ہوئے 3 دن میں شجراف پہنچتے تھے یہ بیٹ بکریوں کے ساتھ. شجراف پہنچتے ہی ہمارا ایک بہت پیارا فیسٹیول تھا. وہاں پہ سب مل کے یہاں جو پہلے ہم یاک سے دودھ نکالتے تھے اس کا ہم یہاں پہ چیز بناتے تھے. وہاں پہ سب اکٹھا ہو کے وہ سب کو تقسیم کرتا تھا.
de hele bericht. Het is nog zo niet. De jisen, wat je hebt tijd, jisen tijd. De hele baren park, tjes, vader en halet, molen spunifi.
Nazır şadır salvit, tıp salmarmış. Nazır teyit.
Bar tro salvit.
Nartı bir sal uz adi sorumuz veyde. Lekin yani sirte.
اس ٹائم پوری کمیونٹی ساتھ ہو کے چلی جاتی تھی. جو بڑے یاکس ہوا کرتے تھے ان پہ ہمارے جو 5 مہینے کے راشن, اس میں آٹا, اس کے بعد جتنے بھی جو امپورٹنٹ آئٹمس ہوا کرتے تھے ان کو لوڈ کر کے دوسری سائڈ سے لے کے آتے تھے. ہم اپنے اینیملز ان کے ساتھ یہاں سے چلے جاتے تھے.
بیفور 2003 میں لائف بہت ہی مشکل تھا. کیونکہ لوگ اپنے کھانے پینے اور بچوں کے تعلیمی جو اخراج جو سامان ہے ان کو گاؤں تک پہنچانے کے لیے اپنی پیٹھ کا استعمال کرتے تھے.
Apart from the treacherous footpaths of the ancient Silk Road, much of Pakistan's northern region has been cut off from the world for centuries. Until 2003, the Shimshal Valley had no road connecting it to the rest of Hunza district. So the community volunteered to build it themselves, but it took 18 years to do it. And first, they had to convince the President of Pakistan at the time, General Zia, not to relocate them to lower ground.
سوچ میں ہماری گیدرنگ ہو گئی جنرل ضیاء الحق کے ساتھ. اس نے کہا یہ شمشال کیا چیز ہے. انہوں نے کہا کہ نہیں, میر غضنفر نے یہ اس طرح سے ایک ریموٹ ایریا ہے, لہذا اس کے لیے چاہیے روڈ. کہنے پر اس نے کہا کہ نہیں, ان کو سیکوار میں لے جا کر گلگت میں بسائیں گے. اس پر ہم نے آواز اٹھایا کہ بھلے ہم 1000 سال ہماری زندگی گزری ہے, اسی طرح سے مزید 1000 سال گزرے, ہم اپنے جنریشن کو مہاجر کا نام نہیں دیں گے.
اس پا زندگی نکدیر کی اس پا زاد بیدو سیکنم ویس ده هیب تیرتو دی. سپاسونو ده شنشال ویس. مولا کرام خیت که بده که یا بده کفت ساک خوی زمینداری کرد.
محیب علی نام ہے کہ اسکاؤٹ کا ممبر تھا. وہ ادھر خطرناک جگہ میں کام کر رہا تھا. لوگوں نے اس کو رسی پہ پکڑا تھا تو اچانک اوپر سے پہاڑ گر کر وہ رسی کو کاٹ کے وہ سیدھا دریا میں کیا. وہ محیب علی ادھر شہید ہو گیا. 3 بندہ اس روڈ پہ ہمارے شہید ہو گئے.
پہلے تو روڈ نہیں تھا. جب روڈ نکلا تو ظاہر سی بات ہے کہ ہمارے بچے ٹاؤن سٹیز میں یا پھر گلگت ہنزا میں پڑھنے کے لیے گئے. تو وہاں پیرنٹس پھر کنفیوز ہوئے کہ ہم اپنے بچوں کو ٹائم دیں یا پھر اپنے اینیملس کو ٹائم دیں. تو ظاہر سی بات ہے کہ بچے فرسٹ پریورٹی پہ ہوتے تو وہ ان کو ٹائم دینے لگے.
Man västra sålt. Man sorunus vidare, man stiggocht. Uzburigin yalikir, zinek mastigin yalikir.
روڈ کی وجہ سے ہمارا سکول بنے ہیں، روڈ کی وجہ سے بی ایچ او بنے ہیں. اب یہ صرف ٹائر کی جگہ ہے روڈ کا، صرف 7 فٹ کے روڈ. اب جب ٹرک روڈ آئے گا تو یہاں تبدیلی آئے گا.
پچھلے 3 سالوں میں ہنزا میں ڈیلی 4000 اور 5000 گاڑیاں انٹر ہو رہی ہیں. اور ہم جس فریجائل ایریا میں، جس ہیزرٹڈ ایریا میں ہم رہ رہے ہیں، تو وہاں پہ ہم اس طرح سے کاربن کو امیٹیٹ کریں تو پھر آپ خود اندازہ لگا سکتے ہیں. آج ہمارے سامنے یہ 2-4 جو گلیشیئرز ہیں، اسپیشلی ششپر گلیشیئر آپ نے دیکھ لیا، تو ہم کنفیوز ہیں ایکچولی کہ ہم ڈیولپمنٹ کو کس طرح سے دیکھیں، کس چیز کو ہم ڈیولپمنٹ کہیں. تو ابھی ہوٹلز، ابھی 80 روم، 100 روم کا ایک ہوٹل بنا کے بندہ بیٹھا ہوا ہے اور وہ راتوں رات بلینئر بن رہا ہے اور وہ کہہ رہا کہ یہی ڈیولپمنٹ ہے. تو میں اس ڈیولپمنٹ کو ڈیولپمنٹ کبھی نہیں سمجھتی ہوں.
کی پلیئرز آپ کی کمیونٹی ہے. کمیونٹی کیا کر سکتی ہے؟ کمیونٹی اپنے کاربن فٹ پرنٹ کو کم کر سکتی ہے. کمیونٹی جو ہیں وہ اپنے بلڈنگز کو ایسے ڈیزائن کریں کہ ان کو کم سے کم ریسورسز کا یوز ہو ان کی ہیٹ یا کولنگ کے لیے. انہی چیزوں کو اگر ہم اڈاپٹ کریں تو ہم کلائمیٹ چینج کو ریڈیوس کر سکتے ہیں یا کاؤنٹر کر سکتے ہیں.
جب میں چھوٹا تھا، کوئی 8 سال 10 سال کا، تو اس وقت بھی مجھے یاد ہے کہ 3.5 فٹ 4 فٹ تک برف پڑتے تھے ونٹر میں. کچھ سالوں میں فٹ، کچھ سالوں میں جو ہے اس سے کم. جب سے یہ ہمارے شمشال کے روڈ نکلا اس کے بعد برف پڑنا کم ہوا. 2020 میں یہاں پہ برف پڑا، کچھ وقفے کے بعد آدھا انچ ایسے پڑھ کے جناب 9 انچ پڑا. یہ میرے اس عمر میں سب سے زیادہ برف ہے.
Northern Pakistan is stunningly beautiful, crowned by over 7,000 glaciers. It has more ice than anywhere else on Earth, except for the North and South Pole. It's also home to K2, the world's deadliest major summit. One in 5 climbers have died trying to reach the top.
یا تختہ میں نے یا مرنا تھا یا کلائم کرنا تھا. میرا موٹو یہ تھا، میں نے واپس آنا نہیں ہے. بچپن میں آب و ہوا ایسی تھی کہ میں آپ سے عرض کرتا ہوں کہ ہمارا زخم جسم میں پڑ جائے، کٹ جائے تو مٹی ڈال دیتے، ٹھیک ہو جاتا تھا. ابھی مٹی ڈالنے سے اور زخم بڑھ جاتا ہے، کیونکہ پولوشن نہیں تھی. صرف 2 بائسیکل تھے اس وقت میرے زمانے میں. گاڑیاں نہیں تھی، ڈیزل نہیں تھا، اتنا پولوشن نہیں تھا. فارسٹ زیادہ تھا، فارسٹ کو کاٹ دیا، درخت کاٹ دیا، اگائے نہیں تو پولوشن ہو گیا.
2010 میں میں اور فضل بھائی کیمپ 2 سے بیس کیمپ تک مکمل کلین اپ ایکسپیڈیشن پہ ہم گئے تھے، اور ہم نے 1200 kg ربش ہم نے کیمپ 2 سے कैंप 2, कैंप 1 और एडवांस बेस कैंप का हमने क्लोज कर, उसमें पुराने टेंट्स थे, पुराने रस्सियाँ थे, पुराने ऑक्सीजन बॉटल्स थे, पुराने कपड़े, यानी
इंसान के जिस्म के हिस्से भी थे,
इंसान के जिस्म के हिस्से भी थे। तो हमने 2010 में क्लीन कर दिया। 2010 के बाद जब हम 14 में गए तो वही हालत थी। पहले जब K2 को मेजर किया गया है तो उस मुताबिक 8611 मीटर है। वो क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से उसमें फ़र्क ये आया है कि जो मैंने उस लाइका GPS से उसको मेजर किया तो उस रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक K2 की बुलंदी में 2 मीटर कमी आई है, 8609.2। तो ये भी दुनिया के सामने नहीं आया।
K2 पहले तो वाइट था, अभी तो रॉक हो गया, 50% अभी रॉक है। जो टेंट हमने लगाया था तो वो 1 महीने के अंदर कोई 10 से 12 फुट जो ना वो टेंट जो ना वो ऊपर गया और जो ग्लेशियर है वो नीचे गया था। ग्लेशियर जो ना ये बहुत जल्दी से जो ना पिघल रही है।
बिल्कुल यहाँ पे ये इस ग्लेशियर की मैं मिसाल दे रहा हूँ आपको, ये ग्लेशियर बिल्कुल नीचे था, अभी आप जाएंगे तो एक बड़ा जो है दास निकला हुआ है, ग्लेशियर खत्म हो गया है।
For years, scientists believed Pakistan's glaciers were defying the worldwide trend and were actually expanding. They called it the Karakoram anomaly. But since 2010, that understanding has changed.
और कराकोरम एनोमली को प्रूव करने के एक्सटेंसिव स्टडीज हो रहे हैं, ठीक है। और इसमें कराकोरम एनोमली को ट्रिगर करने में या उसको ड्राइव करने में क्लाइमेट चेंज का भी इम्पैक्ट है, जो कि अभी काफ़ी स्टडीज जो मेरे नज़रों से गुजरी हैं, जो लोग इस पे कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए काफ़ी चैलेंजिंग जॉब है, क्योंकि आपके पास पास्ट का डेटा नहीं पड़ा हुआ। किसी ग्लेशियर से डिस्चार्ज जो रिकॉर्ड करते थे वो पहले इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स थे नहीं, अभी जाके हमें लास्ट डिकेड ओल्ड हमारे पास पड़ा हुआ है, जो कि हमारे पास मोर देन 50 इयर्स का होगा, तभी हमारे जो रिजल्ट जो हैं वो कह लें कि अच्छी होंगी।
But in the summer of 2022, no one in Pakistan needed high-tech instruments to see the devastation climate change was unleashing. It's not just ice and rock that's at stake here, but thousands of years of culture for the communities like the 65,000 Wakhis in Pakistan. Their traditions are now threatened, just like it was for the 25,000 people impacted in Attabad when a whole mountain collapsed.
इसमें हो सकता है अभी जो हम सकाफत कल्चर कह रहे हैं, अभी ही देख ले, एक अताबाद बनने से अताबाद के सारे लोग डिस्प्लेस हो गए, और अभी भी वही हो रहा है। अब हसनाबाद का ये डिजास्टर होने के बाद लोग तो डिस्प्लेस हो गए, इधर उधर होंगे। मैं 10-15 साल बाद, 20 साल बाद मैं अपने आइडेंटिटी के बारे में सोच रही हूँ कि क्या मैं उस इलाके में उस टाइम तक मैं रह सकती हूँ, या मैं भी कहीं डिस्प्लेस हो जाऊँगी, या मैं भी अपने उस इलाके से वहाँ से फिर कहीं और जाना पड़े मुझे।
People face a dilemma. Should they stay and struggle to adapt to the climate emergency, or should they go elsewhere in Pakistan or overseas to look for better opportunities?
अब बदनसीबी ये है कि मैं क्या कह सकता हूँ, यहाँ से अपने बच्चों को पालने के खातिर हमारे कुछ लोग कनाडा में हैं, अमेरिका में हैं, अफ्रीका में हैं, दुबई में हैं, तो हम शमशाल को किधर से संभालेंगे? हम जितने अनपढ़ लोग हैं, हम शमशाल में हैं, हम तो चाहते हैं कि शमशाल बेहतर होना चाहिए।
आपको लगता है कि यहाँ के जो नौजवान हैं, मर्द और खवातीन, वो तैयार हैं उस चैलेंजेस को फेस करने?
मुझे नहीं लगता। मुझे इसलिए लगता कि इससे पहले जो है एजुकेशन में हमारे जो बच्चे हैं, उन्होंने बड़े मेहनत किया उस जमाने में, पैदल चल के उन्होंने मेहनत करके उस स्टेज तक पहुंचा। अभी बच्चे पढ़ते भी नहीं, आगे नौकरी भी नहीं करते हैं, तो हमारा तरक्की किस चीज़ से होगा? जुबानी तरक्की तो हो ही नहीं सकती।
एक ज़माना था सब एजुकेशन फॉलो करते थे, सब पढ़ना चाहते थे, तरस जाते थे। अभी वो सारा ट्रेंड खत्म हो चुका है। कोई बिजनेस कर रहा है, यानी लिटरली बिजनेस सिर्फ नाम का होता है, लेकिन होता कुछ नहीं है।
मतलब कल्चर या फिर जो वो चीज़ें थी हमारी आबा अजदाद की, जो निशानियाँ और ये चीज़ें, इनकी तरफ मेरी जो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है ये कम होती जा रही है। इन फ्यूचर नॉट पॉसिबल कि कंटिन्यू रहेगी।
हमने बहुत तकलीफ देखा, लेकिन हम कुछ कदम उठाएंगे। हमारा नस्ल को जो है ना ये तकलीफ नहीं होना चाहिए।
आजमाइश में भी हम बहुत फंसे हैं और कामयाबी भी इस कौम की बहुत हो गई है। उसके लिए अल्लाह ताला की जात का लाख शुक्र।
This summer, a centuries-old tradition still worked its magic. The joy of reaching the high pastures of Shimshal Pass and the world's highest cricket pitch, where these young people take responsibility for our planet's future while preserving the best of the past.
अपनी जो पास्चर है उसकी रिजर्वेशन के लिए, उसकी प्रोटेक्शन के लिए लोगों का जाना वहाँ बहुत ज़रूरी है।
Tanus risq wazant. Imaular shuk semis wisman. Andine ayas po sana risq trapamir.
जब पानी कम होगा, पिघलते हुए जब ग्लेशियर खत्म होगा, तो यहाँ से पानी के अखराज कम होगा। शमशाल के लिए कोई नुकसान नहीं है कभी भी, बल्कि डिजास्टर से हम बच जाएंगे। लेकिन हमारा जो आमदनी है, हमारा जो फूड है, वो हमारा लोअर पाकिस्तान से आते हैं। हमें पूरा लोअर पाकिस्तान जो है बाहर भी वो बेचते हैं, उससे आमदनी में फ़र्क पड़ जाते हैं। तो मुझे फिक्र है कि अगर पानी की कमी हुई तो जितने भी मखलूक अल्लाह ताला ने पैदा किया उनके लिए खतरा है इस पिघलने से। लेकिन मुझे शमशाल की फिक्र नहीं, मुझे पूरा पाकिस्तान यहाँ से जाके सिंध की फिक्र है।
वादी हुंजा में सैलाब से मुतासरा इलाका हसनाबाद आफत ज़दा करार। वादी हुंजा में ग्लेशियर पिघलने के बाद दरिया बिखर गए। शेष पर ग्लेशियर पिघलने से बनने वाली झील फटने के बाद इलाके में सैलाब ने तबाही मचा दी।
But Pakistan's climate crisis did not begin or end in the fateful summer of 2022. It started over a decade ago.
गोजाल और सेंट्रल हुंजा को जो लिंक है वो कट चुकी है। यहाँ पे स्लाइडिंग का जो सिलसिला है वो भी नहीं रुका हुआ है।
There are 20 million people affected, 4 million people homeless, countless dead, and 1/5 of the country underwater.
एक हमारी जान बची हुई छत के ऊपर हम पड़े हुए, बस सब कुछ खत्म हो गया बस।
Rivers burst their banks, washing away streets and submerging homes in the northwest of the country.
Evacuees are showing signs of fever and other waterborne diseases.
Bridges lie broken and roads have been swept away.
Go back!
2022 so-called monsoon on steroids got more water in a few days than the 30-year average. An unprecedented disaster on an unimaginable scale.
I have never seen climate carnage on this scale. I have simply no words to describe what I've seen.
सारी कोई शय भी नहीं बची ना घर काट सके ना कोई शय ना काट सके सिर्फ बालों ने छून बचाई से कुछ ना काट सके
I take the privilege to introduce our distinguished speakers. Miss Shanta Nepali, she is a filmmaker and a mountaineer, currently joining us close from the Everest base camp. Her film Climbing Temperatures on Top of the World as part of the Voices from the series was a finalist at the Banff Mountain Film Book Festival. And our film Dire Dreams, which premiered just yesterday, as part of water level have declined in the upper mountain valley in Nepal, forcing people to abandon their generational homes, and how three resilient women are fighting against this. You can watch all these series on the AKDN website or the AKU YouTube. Our next panel, Dr. Arun Bakhta Sharista. Dr. Arun is the strategic group lead for reducing climate and environment risk at EC Mode. And he is among the seasoned, I would say, scientists who have the depth of knowledge on the climate change and the problem, and especially how it has impacted the mountainous, region and the people. May I request you to take your seat here? Ms. Shanta is she's joining us online. Our third speaker, Mr. Jamyang Wangchuk, is a Bhutanese actor and film producer, growing in the remote Bhutan. He was able to nurture his love for the nature, the natural, world. And today he advocates for the environment, and he's a famous cyclist. And through his cycling, he raises awareness for climate change. So may I request to join us here in the panel. So before I start with the question comes to mind: why AKAH supported, this WeRW film, and what has been the impact? homes to 240 million people and countless rare and endangered species. These mountains are also the largest depository of ice outside the polar caps, providing water to about a quarter of the world's people. We, the people of the Himalaya, Hindu Kush, Karakoram, and Pamir mountains, are already living in a climate emergency. Alarms are ringing throughout the world. The most devastating and ruinous floods in Pakistan, which we also saw a glimpse in the documentary. It was the worst, flood in the history of Pakistan. And also the worst drought in generation in East Africa, or the Everest base camp turned from a fridge outpost to a lake, side camp. These are all signs that climate change is accelerating, while most countries are facing to meet their pledges to reduce the carbon emissions. Ayn Fry, the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Climate Change, said, and I quote, "Climate change is the largest, most pervasive threat to the natural environment, and scientists that we have ever, and societies that we have ever experienced, and the poorest countries are paying the highest price," unquote. To the Voices from the Roof of the World series, we want to give these vulnerable communities a voice so that we may all better understand the perils of climate change and take action to help those most affected cope with the global crisis. The VRW trains, mentors, and support young Asian filmmakers to produce groundbreaking environmental films about the consequences of climate change for the people and wildlife that they are least responsible for global warming, but already shouldering the catastrophe and its impact. The film also shows how to combining local knowledge and innovation, or the scientific knowledge. These communities are finding ways to adapt and fight to save lives and diverse ecosystems and precious water resource. Prince Hussein Aga Khan, who is also the chair of the executive committee of the Afghan Agency for Habitat, he says on the VRW, and I quote here, the people worst affected by climate change today are least responsible for its causes and too often left to bear the burden alone. We must give these vulnerable communities a voice, and all take responsibility to help them cope with the global crisis. Across all our activities, the AKDN works with communities, government, civil society, and private sector to invest in locally led climate actions and build resilience, unquote. The entire series and many individual episodes were screened at a dozen international film festivals. From Benef to Rotterdam, season 2 won the prestigious John B. Ox Award for Distinguished Reporting on Environment and at Columbia Journalism School. Now, the first question I would like to pose to Ms. Shanta Nepali. Ms. Shanta, you are already, close to the base camp of Everest. Why did you choose to participate in this Voices from the Roof of the World? If you can hear me, Ms. Shanta.
Yeah, thank you so much. First, I would like to say thank you so much for inviting me on this panel. I'm very humbled and I'm very honored to be a part of this panel discussion. Actually, this is very, I think, one of the best platform to tell our stories from the front line. I've been working in the mountain for the last 10, 12 years. As a filmmaker, as a climber, and then I have seen all the impact, climate change impact directly from my own experience, from the people who lives in the mountains. This needs to be told to the worldwide. This needs to be come outside as a story, as any form of medium of storytelling. So I think it is the best platform, and then it is the best platform to tell our own story from our own perspective.
Thank you. As you are already witnessing, might be witnessing and experiencing the impact of climate change as you travel, to these mountains. So, do you want to share any evidence and the impact you clearly see on these mountain, wherever you travel, and particularly the Everest, as you are currently there?
Mm-hmm. I've been climbing and also filming in the mountain, working as a high altitude camera person, sometimes as a director. So when I climb, I experience, the most impact in the mountain. Like you see in 6,000 meter, like if you're climbing 6,000 meter mountain or 8,000 meter mountain, the temperature, the ice, the snows are melting so fast. And 6,000 meter in Everest Camp 2, you can see, the whole river is running. You can't expect the river in 6,000 meter. Last 2 years, I think I stayed in base camp, Everest base camp, for 2-3 months to work one of the project. And then during that time, I've spent almost 2 months, and I've seen the temperature was so hot. Even the climbers was so they was worried because of the avalanche, because they were trying to be on the summit. And then at that time the temperature was so hot. Because of that temperature, people, the climbers, they change the summit time as well. So it's happening so fast. And as a climber, as a filmmaker, I am also experiencing in firsthand. And especially the mountaineers, especially the Sherpas, and then people who lives in the mountain, not only in the mountain, in they're growing all the vegetables, all the potatoes and other vegetables. Because of the temperature, they never seen all the new vegetables are growing at 4,000 meter. It's happening very fast, and then people are happy in some time, but it's at the same time it's very alarming. So I've been seeing this changing from very first hand. At the same time, last year we made a film about Everest, climate change in Everest area. So at that time, we also experience people at village area. They are experiencing all the changing in climate, and also in the mountain as well.
Thank you, Ms. Shanta. I know it's a little cold there and you have to bear with us. Is it okay if I go to the other panels and then come back to you for another question?
Yeah, sure. I can sit in the sun.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. So my second question will be from Dr. Arun Ji. The third pole has been referred to as the climate crisis you never heard of. Would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, but first, let me thank you, AKAH, for giving me this opportunity. And I feel a little bit humbled to sit here and talk, with Jamyang here, and then Santa Nepali, who is in Pangoshe. with first-hand experience, dealing with it. And I, as a scientist, mostly spend my time in a desk on a desk to do it. So probably a little bit, my experience comes with theoretical. But nevertheless, I very much agree to what you have said. Yes, this is something unprecedented. Uh, every month we hear that the month has been warmest in a record. So October was the warmest October, November was the warmest November, and probably December will be warmest December in record, right? So that's something which we are hearing globally. Now, if you come down to our region again, it is pretty much the same. The region is experiencing something which I would say was not experienced, kind of unprecedented. We very recently brought out a report called Highwise, Water, Ice, Society and Ecosystem in the Himalaya, a synthesis report looking at cryosphere, water, ecosystem, and society, and also climate. And it clearly um, illustrated the rapid change happening in this area, the changes in terms of warming, which we now know that is quite significant compared to significantly higher than the global average. The precipitation pattern changing very dramatically with extreme precipitation happening even in very high altitude areas where extreme precipitations are not natural. Liquid precipitation happening over snowpack. Sometimes you have heavy snowpack, and then on top of it, you have liquid precipitation causing excessive melting and erosion. And we have had, several events of flooding because of that, like the Melanchi event in 2021. And of course, the whole story about glacier melting very rapidly. The report also highlights that the decade of 2010, the mass loss, glacier mass loss, was 65% more than in the previous decade. And of course, these all changes lead to changes in the hydrological regime, both in terms of water availability, mostly very critical at the upstream part of the river basins, but also extremes like floods, as well as droughts, glacial outburst floods. So yes, I think our recent years have been very, very unprecedented in terms of experiencing climate crisis.
Thank you.
Let's stop here.
So the next question I would like to ask from Mr. Gamin. You are into sports and also an actor, right? So how can sport impact, the climate change narrative and help better tell the climate emergency story to people to change their understanding about the issue and the crisis?
Well, I am actually I grew up playing a lot of sports, outdoor sports, football, cycling, table tennis, basketball. I was always into the outdoor activities, so it was very natural for me to try and combine this into my campaign, incorporate this into my campaign, and make it a tool to get the message across further. So, I think there is research that states that the sporting sector, the global sporting sector, I think emissions from it is equivalent to an emission from a medium-sized country, which is huge. And I think that comes from the transportation to and from the events, the construction of venues, stadiums, and also the supply chain related to equipments for sports. And also sports, so it's not only, they're not only the contributor, they're also a casualty in a sense. There's another report that says the winter sports, the half of the host countries will not be able to sponsor the Winter Olympics by 2050 due to less snow and ice. So these are quite alarming. Yeah, you know. Uh, so in that sense, I think sports, but on the other side, what sports has the edge is, you know, it has this huge social platform where, you know, billions of people are connected by as spectators or participants, you know, or facilitators, and there's this huge potential to get this awareness across the fans and have them get involved and, you know, to inspire them to lead sustainable lifestyle. And not only that, you know, sports, I think if they really incorporate these important practices, it helps to, I think, start a chain where other industries can also influence. So in that sense, in my case, the reason I use cycling is firstly, of course, it's renewable. You know, it's muscle power. Keep the footprint of the camping to a minimum. So I've used that, and also the other one is climbing, you know, trekking up in the mountains and trying to engage community in the mountaineering, you know, industry or cycling industries, and to get the message further across, not only through films, but, you know, participating fans. So that's been the goal of the campaign.
That's great. And I think it also brings the youth aspect and also the health aspect, isn't
Exactly.
it? Yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Shanta, if you can hear me, I would like to ask you, can you comment on the role or potential of film art and creative communication in influencing climate action? And how can different forms of communication or different ways climate stories are portrayed, the voices or perspective that are highlighted, can really communicate to the people?
Mhm. As a filmmaker, as a storyteller, my first, responsibility is to, you know, take that story or that organic story to, you know, outside, not outside, and that's my responsibility. And then film or any other medium is very powerful to show what's happening in the mountain, or what's happening with the community. Not only the climate change affecting the mountains, not only the climate change affecting the the glacier, it's affecting people's lives directly. I've been working with the communities, directly, and then I know it needs to be know the world, you know, it needs to be, the people needs to know the story. So film is a very powerful medium, and then I don't need to explain why film is so powerful, because if you hear, you know if you know the story from the people directly, then you'll understand what's happening, or what's the people are experiencing. And then that gives to the people to give awareness. Also the people, whoever trying to solve the problem, is that's the story needs to be very.
Lost. Yeah, we lost. Miss Shanta, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we lost you, I think, at the end part.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to get the better connection. So it's very as a filmmaker, and then working with the community, it's very important. Last 5 years, I'm trying to get the story from the mountain, because I've seen lots of suffer, lots of impact, and then people don't know about it. People don't know what's happening in their life, what's happening in the village. Recently, we have made a story of in Upper Mustang. It's nearby the Chinese border, and then there is a huge problem about the water scarcity, and then people have, they left their village, and then they don't know exactly what's happening, and that they need to know. And then all the research, all the whatever happening in the cities, that needs to be reach out to the people, and also the indigenous knowledge. People are trying to adjust their life. That also needs to be meet with the research, or all the new things. So yeah, so this film or any kind of medium is very powerful to show, and then also to reach to wherever it's yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Shanta, and we wish you all the best and safe journey. So the second question from Dr. Arundi. A better communication on the science of climate change. It's critical, to mobilizing the climate action. What can researchers do to democratize data and, make their research more accessible and actionable for people? And how you have noticed things changing in recent years?
Yeah, I am very much for, democratizing the data. Traditionally what has happened is scientists would not share data because data meant, publication, high impact factor publication. So sharing data would mean they might not be able to do that. But I guess this has to change, and there are various ways, democratization of data information can be done. First of all, starting with the publication itself, I think we need to think of changing the publication pattern. Even the high-level scientific publication now can be published in open access journal. So the push should be more towards open access, so that people who are interested, who cannot actually pay for the articles, can actually get benefit by accessing those articles. I think that is number one. But then it is not enough. I think it should go much beyond that. And the scientific research results should be put out in a way that is actually useful, understandable to various communities. Um, you know, to policy and decision makers, to general public, and even communities who are actually concerned, who are actually to be impacted by the climatic changes happening. So I think that's something which I would suggest. But then it doesn't come naturally. Scientists are not naturally good communicators. So that part has to improve. The capacity building part has to be there, but also maybe certain interface between the scientist and communication has to be there. But that part is very much important. And coming up with um issue briefs, policy briefs, and also synthesis report like the high-wise synthesis report. I think that puts together, one article, one, result might not make sense for different audiences, right? But, in combination, several articles, publication actually can make sense. So the synthesis reports actually can do that, like the high-wise report I talked about. But then, also engaging. It's not just putting it out in a public space, but also engagement is very much necessary. Now, in terms of what is happening, I think, of course, these are something, I think it is happening. There are more and more journals um, which are supporting open access. Even the big high impact journals are now going for open access. But then you have to pay a huge amount of money to do that, and not everyone probably can do that. The scientific research which are supported by scientific foundations, scientific councils, might not support funding for open access. So that really needs to change. Um, what is also important is to make data useful is push more for interdisciplinary research. Larger projects with work packages which actually start from high science, but also related to other components work packages which are more about society, more about practicalities. I think that's something can be done. I can give example of Highware project which we did earlier, which has very strong scientific, downscaling, modeling. But then it did not stop there. There were other components which actually translated those results into what it meant for society, for people, and what solution can actually help in those. So interdisciplinary projects, I think we need to push more, and with more development in technology, we have a lot of opportunities now to make scientific data, research data available for different kinds of audiences through, different kinds of media platforms. AIs can actually help them, artificial intelligence. Having said that, these are some of the potential I see which can be used. But then I see positive change in this direction. There is some push, but I don't think it is adequate. There needs to be more push toward this, and organizations have to push it. I'm happy that Ishimod, my organization, actually is pushing for open access data, and every data we collect, we have to make it available to public through different platforms. For example, regional data information system is there, which actually hosts that, and we also make it available for other, not necessarily only our data, but other data. If the institutions do not have that capacity to host the data, we are also ready to host it for them. So that's something I would like to say. Thanks.
Mr. Jamin, you choose to travel like by bus or boat, etc. Even to the Cope, I heard. So why did you choose like this type of? It's a habit, I think, and you have kind of aimed for it. And why is it important and at the same time maybe challenging for you? Would you like to narrate on that?
Yeah, sure. This it's like you said, yes, it's something that I've incorporated into my lifestyle as well. Back home, I cycle a lot to my gym back, or when I need to go to make a presentation in schools. So that's I take my bike most times, my bicycle. For this campaign, where I collect glacier ice as a symbol for the dying glaciers, I have used, I would say, as a publicity stunt. I have biked all the way to the glacier uh, to get more attention to the campaign, and collect glacier ice and got it back. Now, what I do with the glacier ice is, as it's since it stands for a symbol for climate action, I use my cycle as a mode of transportation, low carbon transportation, to carry this message. And this year, I have biked from Nepal to actually the goal was to bike all the way from Bhutan to Karachi, then hop onto a sailboat to Dubai. But due to a lot of factors, sponsors pulling out and injuries, I was able to cycle only till New Delhi, and I couldn't cover my daily mileage because of the injuries. So I had to then switch to trains. I took a train from Delhi to Amritsar, Then from there, crossed the border into Pakistan, and then in Pakistan, I hopped onto buses, and through the Sindh province, I visited Karachi, and in the Sindh province, I was able to also visit the areas that were impacted by last year's flood. So that was a part of the campaign, also to visit places where people are still living, have been impacted by the climate crisis. So I think it is important for the campaign because the campaign carries three key messages, and then one of the key messages is rapid or immediate transition to renewable energy. And if we initially have a team that comes in a support car, in an electric support car, and films the journey. But this time, as I said, due to sponsorship issues, we couldn't afford to bring a team in. So this is something that we are pushing for, and that's one of the reasons why also we use sports, cycling specifically, to incorporate them into the campaign.
Thank you. Any final message you want to give to the COP delegates?
Yeah, so basically, I kind of summarize that with my key messages, the three key messages that I have. First is to stop deforestation, protect old growth forests, and plant more trees and care for them for life. Then my second key message is to immediately transition to renewable energy. And the final message is to include climate crisis studies as part of school curriculum. So yeah, that's if I summarize these three words.
Very powerful, and I'm sure Dr. Arunji and myself and everybody agrees
Very much.
with that.
Very much. Yeah.
So I take the opportunity to thank each one of you for the wonderful, discussion. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
organizers, partners.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.